intersection. In that van then confronted the suspect.
Other busted lip. Both lawmakers belong to pro.
In high seas and plummeting temperatures, 2 migrants are spotted in a dinghy by an Italian tugboat. They were later rescued along with 7 others in another vessel. But survivors have told the UN Refugee Agency that more than 200 people are still missing. The agency is demanding the EU does more to help.
There were 203 people with them that have disappeared. They have been swallowed by the sea. It's quite surprising to us that the EU cannot respond with a stronger solidarity, with a stronger humanity, and with a stronger strategy to that.
At least 4 vessels are believed to have left the coast of Libya over the weekend. On Sunday night, 29 African migrants died of hypothermia after being rescued in wintry conditions. They were among 105 people picked up by the Italian Coast Guard trying to reach Europe in a small fishing boat. The 4th vessel remains missing. The survivors were brought here to the Italian island of Lampedusa that in recent years has struggled to handle the influx of migrants from Africa. In the last year, more than 3,000 people have lost their lives attempting to reach Europe by sea. The latest deaths are likely to reignite the debate over Italy's decision to end its Mare Nostrum rescue programme. Italy scaled back the scheme after EU partners refused to share running costs of $10 million per month. In the Vatican, Pope Francis held prayers for the victims.
More migrants have died because of extreme cold during their long journey across the Mediterranean. I want to assure you of my prayers for the victims, and I again encourage solidarity so that those in need are rescued.
The Italian Coast Guard is now continuing its hunt for survivors, but humanitarian groups say Italy's new rescue programme that only operates a few miles off the Italian coast has put thousands of lives at risk. Neve Barker, Al Jazeera.
All right, moving on now. Caught on camera, police chase ends in an arrest. This all happened in Dallas, Texas. Police say a man carjacked a person driving a Dodge Challenger and then led cops on a 20-minute chase. Then that car slammed into a minivan at an intersection. A couple of people who were in that van then confronted the suspect. He was trying to get away. They made sure he did not.
Wow.
You see it here.
What footage?
Scuffle ensued. The police got there a short time later. Now that suspect faces charges of aggravated robbery and hit and run. What a scene down in Texas.
Some tense moments unfolded in Ukraine's parliament. A debate over land restitution to local communities turned into a scuffle. 2 lawmakers threw punches and didn't stop, as you can see, until security had to intervene. One was left with a broken nose, the other a busted lip. Both lawmakers belong to pro-government parties. A parliamentary committee recommended a 5-day suspension for both of them.
Naranja. ¿Aquí la gasolinera? ¿Puedes ir a la gasolinera? Mira, este coche se ha quedado aquí parado. La gasolinera, ¿no?
No, la gasolinera por detrás.
Luego vamos por atrás, ¿no?
Well, Mike, ISIL forces have made a successful push and now control an overwhelming part of the town of al-Baghdadi. At the same time, a small band of ISIL forces launched an early morning attack on a nearby sprawling military base where hundreds of U.S. Marines are based and training Iraqi forces. The concern is this could be a foreshadowing of the kinds of attacks the insurgents are going to launch against U.S. forces. Top U.S. military leaders say ISIL troops tried to make their way onto the sprawling Ain al-Assad base in two small bands of forces. The first, 8 or so, attacking ISIL, detonated suicide bomb fest. In the ensuing confusion, 24 or so other ISIL troops tried to follow them and push their way onto the base. Iraqi security forces were able to launch a counterattack and kill all the ISIL forces. There are as many as 320 U.S. Marines at the airbase. Their chief mission is to train Iraqi fighters to take on ISIL. And by all accounts, ISIL attackers did not make it anywhere near the U.S. troops. U.S. officials did say even though the Marines are there to offer training, if fired upon, the Marines would return fire. The U.S. Pentagon spokesman says this latest assault comes at a time when ISIL forces had been stalled for months.
This is arguably the first in at least a couple of months, if not more, where they have had any success at all at taking any new ground. So this is an enemy that we still assess to be in a defensive posture. You know, it's one town. It's not all of Al-Anbar. It's not all of Iraq. We need to keep it in perspective.
Now, al-Baghdadi is located in the Anbar province along Euphrates River. The air base is very close, less than a 15-minute drive from the city. The base has come under indirect fire over the past several days, but apparently causing no serious damage. Meanwhile, military analysts say it would be difficult for the insurgents to break through the perimeter at the air base. They point out that ISIL would have to amass a large number of fighters, and that would make them vulnerable to air attacks by the U.S.-led coalition. Mike?
Aside from what's happening there in Iraq, there are now reports about U.S. secret raids against the Taliban in Afghanistan. What do we know about that?
Well, we can tell you that has picked up somewhat significantly over the past several weeks. And the reason is really twofold. One, back in October, U.S. Special Forces got their hands on a computer that was owned by a lead Taliban officer. And that was a treasure trove of very secretive information from the Taliban. So they have been launching night raids from the information culled from that computer. And secondly, also, outgoing President Hamid Karzai was very much against the night raids in Afghanistan. He blamed them for a lot of civilian deaths. The new president, Ashraf Ghani, is very much open to these kind of nighttime raids if they're able to do something to push the Taliban out of areas that they've held for quite some time now.
Wandering around in driveways, and now he's walking down Hardman Place, Wayne towards Hardman Road.
Does he have a vehicle nearby, or he's on foot?
He's just on foot.
AMF maybe? I don't know. He don't speak a lick of English. Trying to pat him down because he keeps trying to walk away from him and he wants to. Push your legs. Push your legs. Go. You're all right. Put your legs on it. You walk. Stand up. Stand up.
Got 198 whales, and it's the biggest one we've had for 10-15 years. Because there's just so many whales, there are a couple of spots where a lot were gathered together, and that's kind of problematic from the fact you can't get in there. It's just too dangerous.
Fighting is intensifying in eastern Ukraine hours before a new ceasefire is due to take effect. There are pictures of pro-Russia separatists on the outskirts of the town of Debaltseve. The government-held town has become the main focus of the combat. These images are said to show a build-up of Russian artillery to the northeast of the railway junction town. They were tweeted by the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Jeffrey Pyatt, on Friday. He said, "We are confident these are Russian military and not separatists." And these are the areas currently held by the separatist fighters. The rebel stronghold of Donetsk has seen shelling after the ceasefire deal was announced. There have also been reports of shelling and live fire in the rebel-held town of Luhansk. However, the main battle seems to be for control of Debaltseve. It's one of strategic importance as a railway town linking the two main rebel strongholds to Russia. Government forces currently hold Debaltseve, but they are under intense fire. Now, the peace plan, which will kick off at midnight on Saturday in just a few hours, is known as Minsk II. The two sides have agreed to pull back heavy artillery from the front lines within 14 days. All foreign fighters and their weapons are to leave Ukraine. There'll be a demilitarized zone of at least 50 kilometers between the two sides along the agreed front lines. There'll also be an exchange of all prisoners within 5 days. If the withdrawal is successful, then local elections are to be held in the rebel-held Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Ukraine's troops are scheduled to have control over its border with Russia by the end of 2015, but that's conditional on Kiev granting more powers to eastern regions. Let's speak to Al Jazeera's Charles Stratford now, who joins us on the line from Donetsk. He's just returned from the front line. Charles, tell us about what you saw just a few hours ago.
Well, we came back across, as you say, across the front line from the area around Debaltseve this morning. Certainly Debaltseve yesterday, and so we were seeing again today a heavy troop build up there. A lot of Ukrainian forces moving forward towards Debaltseve. As we came across the frontline border, it was relatively quiet. We'd heard reports here in Donetsk, from people here in Donetsk, that there'd been a lot of heavy shelling in the morning, but certainly as we came through, it was quite quiet. However, that changed around about an hour ago. We were attending a press conference, or waiting for a press conference to start, being given by one of the separatist leaders here, Alexander Zakashenko, and there were 3 shells that landed progressively closer to that building. All of a sudden, panic among the few people that were on the streets. As I say, there had been this lull for a few hours, but it seems steadily to be escalating. There was a response around 10 minutes after those 3 attacks by what sounded like artillery and Grad rockets being fired from positions. It was difficult to say where exactly, but certainly around Donetsk. So as I say, there does seem to be this steady escalation. It was interesting as we came across the checkpoints today, the separatists had set up mortar positions that hadn't been there only yesterday when we crossed to go over to Debaltseve. The Ukrainian military are also saying that there are ongoing battles around the southern port city of Mariupol. So certainly things not looking good as we get closer to this scheduled ceasefire start.
Right, and I was going to ask you, in light of these events, Charles, what are the prospects of the ceasefire actually taking hold?
Well, this is it. This is what everybody has been saying. I think that the fighting has got worse since that ceasefire agreement was signed. It's obviously we've had a couple of days since then. The ceasefire is due to start tonight. It seems as if both sides are either trying to consolidate their positions or certainly even take more territory, as we're seeing in Debaltseve, certainly. We spoke to a separatist fighter at a checkpoint today as we crossed into the separatist-controlled area, and in his words, he said things were going to go crazy tonight, referring to what he said was the period between nightfall and the ceasefire starting around midnight. We've also seen, in the last 24 hours, according to the Ukrainian military, at least 7 soldiers killed, another 23 wounded. There were 3 people reportedly killed in Atomsk last night, overnight as well, in Ukrainian military-controlled territory. So certainly at this stage, it's frankly not looking very good.
Okay, Charles, thank you very much. That's Al Jazeera's Charles Stratford on the line there from Donetsk.
Now, the United Arab Emirates and Spain have suspended operations at their embassies in Yemen following a Shiite militia takeover. The UAE Foreign Ministry said in a statement that the increasingly deteriorating political and security situation prompted its decision. It said all staff of its embassy in the Yemeni capital have been evacuated. Spain, in the meantime, it was suspending embassy activities in Yemen in light of the current instability as well. The Spanish Foreign Ministry said the embassy had contacted all members of the small Spanish community in Yemen and advised them to temporarily leave the country. Saudi Arabia, the United States, France, Germany, Italy, Britain, and the Netherlands have all closed their embassies in Yemen and pulled out staff due to security fears.
The avalanche immediately engulfed Sam Robinson. At first, only one of the snowmobile's front skis was visible, and then, incredibly, Robinson was not injured.
But mostly just bruises and banged up. Obviously, it was rolling me down the hill.
Robinson was equipped with an inflatable avalanche bag, but he wasn't able to pull the cord as the violent avalanche rolled him down the mountain. I'm Matt Sampson, the Weather Channel.
Şimdi ben oraya gelemem. Burası ben cenaze arabasını gönder buraya. Cenaze arabasını. Tam şeyde Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5.